hurting my partner to hurt myself. So I don't really know where to start, but I will try. About a year ago, I left a really abusive relationship, one where I was beaten, strangled, manipulated, and starved of real love. I ended up believing I deserved it. I've never ever let someone get close enough to me again to experience real love until I met my current boyfriend around 4 months ago. We'll call him Kieran. It was easy for me to trust Kieran, which was something I had not experienced before. He was thoughtful and kind, and he made me feel safe. Kieran is passionate. He wears his heart on his sleeve like me. He has a history of trauma like myself, but he tries really hard every day to make me happy. He has a daughter who he introduced me to, an ex who holds all the cards in terms of his time with his daughter, and says the struggles with the fact he left his last relationship because he feels like a bad person for leaving his daughter. His own dad was absent. He cries most weeks over his daughter. She is under 2 years old. It breaks my heart whenever I see him hurting, and sometimes it hurts me to know I will never be his #1 priority, although I understand and I know this is something I need to work on myself. He lied to me about a few things from his past, like when the relationship with his ex truly ended. I don't mean when they split up, but when he met me, they stopped the physical side and niceties, and lied to me about certain timelines and things that happened at the start of our own relationship because he wanted to make a good impression. This hurt me a lot. My previous relationship was so confusing, and I ended up resenting my ex not only for all the horrible things he did to me, but because I felt stupid to have fallen for someone in the present when I had no idea about his past and who he really was. I fell for a pretend version of him and ended up too deep and too brainwashed to leave. I know Kieran has a good heart. I know he cares and he feels things the way I do, but it really did bother me about his little lies. His past doesn't matter to me at all, really, but me not knowing who I was falling in love with entirely again was difficult for me when I found out. I have never been with someone who has a child, never had to deal with a toxic baby mom, and so the situation can be really hard for me to manage at times. I often feel like I don't matter. She loves to remind him of when their relationship actually ended, which was close to when mine and his started, which hurts me, and she knows this. When she is cruel to him, it hurts me, but because I'm hurt, I can't seem to support him as well. He tells me it is him who is struggling. I look at him and every fiber in my body loves him so completely, and I would honestly give myself to ensure he was okay. I look at him like he is so much more than I will ever be. He doesn't drive, and we've been struggling a bit financially. Every day I drive to his mom's house to collect him. I wake up and I drop him off at work and then drive myself back home so I can go to work. I drive him to collect his daughter who lives 3 hours away whenever I can help him out on the off chance he is actually allowed to see her. I have moved 5 times in 2 years. I sold my first home, which I worked hard for, then moved and moved whenever my ex was in trouble with police for abusing me to start afresh. When that relationship ended, I was in a lot of debt, and my father offered me to rent a small flat from him, super cheap. I have moved my spare room around and decorated in the hopes that Kieran will find a home here with me too one day. I see my home as his when we are here together. Every weekend, just lately, I have felt has never been for just me and Kieran. Every day, I feel I am trying my best to be there for everyone else but myself. But whenever I try to do things for myself, I feel guilty, anxious, and scared. I have felt myself every night before bed telling him he wasn't touching me enough, wasn't doing little things for me to show me he appreciated me and was thinking of me, that he wasn't kissing me the way he used to. We used to have a lot of sex, we couldn't get enough of each other, and in turn, he has told me this has made him feel like he is never doing enough and has pushed him away because he feels his is trying his best. Last weekend, for no reason, I had a strong feeling I needed to check Kieran's phone whilst he was asleep. I dug and I found some of the truths about the little lies I now know about. Things that if he had told me, wouldn't have bothered me and are pretty irrelevant. My next thought was, I need him to tell me, but I knew I had betrayed his trust by going onto his phone in secret, and I panicked and couldn't see a way to just tell him. So what I did, at 6 a.m. on Sunday when I hadn't slept and had been drinking all night, was create a fake Facebook account, message his ex pretending to be a stranger, explaining he had cheated and that he had slept with another woman. Of course, she sent this to me. I think part of me wanted her to know she wasn't as special as she thought. She didn't have him the way she thought up until he met me, because there had been another too. It wasn't just her. I then pretended I was unaware of what had happened, and I was able to ask him what she was on about. Kieran asked me on Monday night if it was me who had sent it. He knew I had been on his phone and found out all this information, and he knew I hadn't slept. I couldn't lie. He heard my voice break when he asked me. I told him the truth. He was hurt. Today it's Wednesday. Last night I went in complete fight or flight. He spoke about how stressed he was. He shouted and screamed at me down the phone, stood with his family, and let me know I had jeopardized him seeing his daughter. He told me his ex now has something else to use against him, and it is my fault. What I did was irreversible. I didn't think. He told me his ex was demanding his daughter have a new bed to sleep in, otherwise she would not be coming. He has no money, but I wanted to help. So I drove for over an hour on a flat tire, with a child's bed that filled my entire car, crying, occasionally thinking of running myself off the road, trying to get it to him. He didn't want to see me. So I drove back home with a friend on the phone to me, managed to find someone who could sort my tire, and I got into bed. I felt confused and I hate myself. He seemed upset that I hadn't waited there longer. He seemed annoyed that I had let another man sort my tire when he had told me he would do it. I asked him if he wanted to stay with me in a relationship, and he said he didn't know what he wanted, but he wanted to give me a chance. He said he loves me, but loving me makes him think, if I loved him, how could I hurt him and not think about the wider situation with his daughter? He told me I was an informant on enemy lines. He keeps saying he doesn't understand it, and neither do I. I do love him, and I do care deeply, so why didn't I think of him and his daughter? Why did it matter to me so much that I was willing to risk the one person I care most about? I ended up hurting myself and those around me the most, and I can't understand why I did that. He was annoyed that I hadn't listened to him about the toddler bed, but asked me last night to travel to his again to deliver the bed today, and then this is when he will talk to me. He told me he wanted me to stay with him last night, but I couldn't cry because he would be cold with me. He told me I needed to face his family who I had hurt and needed to own my actions and face his mother who I had made cry. I declined to go stay with him and said my mental health could not take that yet, being in a house where I have caused so much hurt when I already hate myself too. His ex is demanding he have the bed set up and ready tonight. I don't want him to miss out on time with his daughter, so even if he won't speak to me, I am going to deliver the bed to him. He said he will talk to me, but the guard I have up now feels I am being used for the toddler bed. I am his last priority. I will take it to him anyway. I asked him if he did want me to stay with him tonight, could he come back home to mine with me instead? He said he could, but he will not be loving towards me, and he does not want to have sex with me. I understand, although it hurts. I feel like running away. I feel I am just such a bad person, and I don't see how I ever make this right. I have decided to return to therapy once I have been paid in a few weeks.